Looks like we are live. Back again. Caleb championing Tin Fins again, Iron Man style. If you win, you keep playing. Also, Caleb pushed against the wall. Back's against the wall, sorry. This is his last deck. So if he wants to win the whole thing, he's going to have to win the next 2 matches back-to-back. Julian, on the other hand...
By the way, we were way off on elves. This is not an elves deck at all. It does have green creatures in it, but they are not 1/1s and like 2/2s. They are 6/6s.
6/6s, ready for the
trample.
spotlight. Yeah. Julian going to mulligan to 5. Unfortunately, he knows he's up against this combo deck. So, I mean, 12 Posts historically doesn't have the greatest game 1 against combo. It is known to be the Miracle Slayer, and I think that's why Julian selected it, thinking that Miracles would be heavily played in this event, which it actually was. But
this is pretty interesting, though. Caleb is just 1 black mana short of just killing him on the spot, and I don't know if he's going to have time to do anything about it. I mean, he's going to... If he gets to turn 2, he might be able to get that Pithing Needle off in his hand and name Gristlebrand. And then, that might do something, but I don't know if he's going to be able to beat an Emrakul anyways.
Yeah.
But, maybe he can, trade a land and a Pithing Needle for an Emrakul, go down to, 5, sacrifice only 2 cards, make Caleb blow his combo, and maybe he has enough time to get back into it, but this one is looking like a wash. Can we see his exact 12-post list?
I think Mike may have sent that to you in the chat.
I got it here.
Right. So, I mean, first of all, if Julian wants to stand a chance at all, he's going to have to draw a land that doesn't enter the battlefield tapped, because otherwise Caleb's going to untap and just slam all his cards on the table and combo off.
Yeah. And looking at his deck, it looks like the ways of interaction he has a main deck Pajuka Bug to go with some 3 crop rotations, 3 Flusterstorms in the main deck to interact with the spells part, a Karakas to interact with Emrakul. Kind of funny, he has 1 Trick Bind to stop Gristlebrand. Do you think Caleb is going to play around Trick Bind and hold priority and activate Gristlebrand twice? I don't think so, but that would be pretty sick. Otherwise, he's going to gain 7 and hit Julian for 7, but other than that, he's not going to get anything done.
Yeah, I think this 12-post list is actually extremely spicy. Caleb is if Caleb plays around Trick Mind, I promise he deserves to win.
I think if he plays around Trick Bind, Julian just scoops the series and goes to bed and just says this is what it is, and just that's it.
Yeah, I mean, 3 a.m. My opponent just beat me when I was playing Trick Bind of all cards. It's bedtime. Yeah. Props to these guys for playing so late. True dedication to the game.
Yeah. We can't give Caleb that much credit. He's in like Chicago or something, I think. So it's like, it's like 8 o'clock or whatever,
Yeah, he's just relaxing, ordering pizza.
Yeah, he just had dinner like an hour ago.
But interestingly enough, Caleb elects to cast a Ponder instead of going for the combo. I'm really
I am surprised by that. Maybe, especially being he has Shallow Grave and Grove's Vengeance, so it's not like he has a lot to sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Or he's going for the combo anyways. It looks like because he knew he had that Lotus Petal. Maybe he just wanted to get rid of some, just ponder just to see what's coming up in the top of his deck. And this should be the game here. Like I haven't really seen many people lose after they put their opponent to 13 and draw 21 cards. Plus, he should be able to find some Lotus Petals and Dark Rituals, and maybe he can get a Children of Kolos and cast Emrakul. But I would like to see Julian just scoop, because once we know how the loop is, once the loop's demonstrated, we know what's happening. And maybe we don't have to. I think I liked watching it the first time, but we'll see what happens.
Right. So for the viewers, we've already demonstrated the loop ones. Just to explain how it goes, it's Caleb is going to draw his entire deck. He's going to cast a bunch of Dark Rituals, and then he's going to find a way to get his Emrakul into the graveyard. With 0 cards in deck, Caleb will shuffle exactly his graveyard back into the deck, which is 4 Dark Rituals and an Emrakul. He'll draw that again by looping Children of Kolos. So assume that there's going to be some life gain in the process, and he's going to generate enough mana to actually just hard cast Emrakul and take an extra turn and swing for lethal.
Yeah, I think usually what happens is you shuffle up the Emrakul, you get down to like 0 cards in your deck, and then you play like 3 Dark Rituals, a Lotus Petal, a Child. You like Thought Seize yourself, discard Emrakul, shuffle those 7, pay exactly 7, draw those, and you just do that a few times until you have 15 mana, and then you just Emrakul them, and that should be the game.
Right, absolutely.
And as we were saying earlier, if that's really not enough, you can Emrakul them again next turn and the turn after and for a few more turns.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Julian's mulligan to 5 was very, very close. He did have that one turn to draw land, play the Pithing Needle. I mean, it by no means meant that he was going to survive, but it bought him an extra draw step at the very least.
It's something. Especially for a mulligan to 5. Now, my question to you is: do you think Julian's going to be boarding out the show and tells in his deck? Because his opponent is playing 3 Gristlebrands and an Emrakul, so you don't get to attack first when you play show and tell. You get to attack second.
Yeah, that is tricky. It's really hard to say. Caleb's deck is designed around getting those cards into the graveyard, so it's not necessarily the case that he's always going to have it in hand. He might, rather try to entomb it to the graveyard instead. Mm-hmm. That being said, Julian's going to have to take these things into consideration. Like, what if Caleb has the Gristlebrand in his hand? He's also going to have to balance that with potentially, having to kill Caleb as fast as he possibly can. And Show and Tell definitely does. I mean, spending 3 mana to put a 15/15 into play is far better than spending 15 mana to put a 15/15 into play.
I mean, if you ask Caleb, and if Julian plays Show and Tell and he gets to put his Emrakul in play, he didn't even have to spend his own 3 mana,
Right. So looking at sideboarding, can you tell me a little bit of what Julian's got going on?
Well, I think he definitely wants the 6 cards he's pulled aside, and I'm not sure that he wants much more than that. So I think it's trying to find the actual 6 worst cards, which are definitely the 2 repeal, and I think it might be the 3 show and tells, and maybe the Kozilek. I don't see Kozilek winning a lot of games.
Yeah, Julian hovering over a land. I think he could also potentially board one of those out as well.
Chasm has some things it can do, because you can keep him from gaining life by hitting you with Gristlebrand because he can't get the lifelink to happen. But I think that's worse than the Karakas, because the Karakas would functionally do the same thing.
Okay.
So let's see what else. What else he has? But I do think boarding out that Chasm is right. I'm trying to see what else he has. That Maze of Ith, that can probably come out. I don't think that's going to do a lot. And maybe you board out these show and tells. It's so hard to say. Maybe it's worth keeping in the show and tell because the matchup seems really bad and you just kind of want to cheese them. That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, Julian seems bent on keeping the show and tells in. He's looking at a lot of other cards. I wonder how good Candelabra is.
I think Candelabra is really important because on turn 3, if you get a lucky Cloud Post draw and you have a bunch of them, you can kind of go off that way.
Okay.
But yeah, so I think his last cut should be that Maze of Ith.
All right,
what's interesting to me is someone in the chat said maybe that the new Kozilek would be better than the one he currently has.
Oh, okay, that's a good point.
It could really be a way to shore up your combo matchups if you could find a fast Kozilek maybe. I don't know if that's going to really shore up any combo matchups, but it seems like a way to keep people locked out of the game for good.
Yeah, I mean, especially a deck like Caleb's Tinfins that has so many 1-drops, so many cantrips. You could draw into all your Brainstorms, Flusterstorms, and what have you, and just trade 1 for 1, and then you have how big is this card? 10-10, 11-10, Infinity, whatever.
Yeah, who cares how big it is?
It's gonna swing in and it's gonna do a bunch of damage.
Yeah, it's funny because the new Kozilek is actually much better than Emrakul against the combo type decks, because let's say they have a slow and clunky hand, your matchup's not good against them anyways, but you are somehow able to get this maybe a turn 3 or 4 if they dirtled and you cast this Kozilek, or if you were able to cast Emrakul in the same amount of time, you'd hit them for 15, but Storm and Tinfins and all these decks, they can still beat you. They could just go land or Lotus Petal, Dark Ritual off and combo, but they can't do that against Kozilek. You could even pitch a land to counter a Lotus Petal or a Landside Diamond. I believe it says It doesn't say non-land. You can just discard any card, correct?
I have to check. I think it's any card. We can pull that up in the chat shortly. But looking back at the game right now, we see Julian taking another unfortunate mulligan to 5. This time he does have that copy of Flusterstorm, without the blue mana though to actually cast it.
Yep. To be fair, this mulligan to 5 is pretty phenomenal. He's got a way to interact. He's got a threat if he can get to the mana. When I say a way to interact, I mean a way to interact with a stack and a way to interact with a graveyard. So if Caleb's plan is only the graveyard, he's going to need more than one way to go off.
Absolutely, that's correct. Yeah.
And I think it's worth noting that you can't say these mulligan to 5s are too unlucky, because generally speaking, like maybe he did have some bad draws, but this deck has so many polarizing draws and matchups like this that you're shipping a lot of good 6 and 7 card hands just to get to the couple cards that matter.
Yeah, that's actually a really, really good point that you bring up. Yeah.
As a Lance player, I mulligan down to 4 and 5 constantly against combo players, and like, oh, sorry man. I'm like, no, it's fine. It happens a lot. And then you play like your one sphere, or he has this 1 Fairy Macabre and 1 Flusterstorm that kind of just like stonewall their 7 card hand. You're like, I'm sorry that my 1 card beat your 7. Like you get to kind of turn it around sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And it looks like Caleb did shuffle off the Ponder, Swamp, Entomb, and some other card not being good enough. And I think I agree with that as well.
He's gonna need to find not 1 reanimation spell, but 2, or a second one, because he can Entomb, reanimate, and then he's gonna get his threat Fairy Macabre, and then he's gonna need to find another kind of reanimation or another reanimation spell, which isn't too hard from him, but it's gonna buy Julian a lot of time.
Yeah, for sure. And it looks like Caleb is going to draw a Dark Ritual off the second Gitaxian Probe. Yeah, Julian's going to have to draw that blue source quite soon. I mean, obviously, the sooner the better. He can survive for a while with this Fairy Macabre, but
yeah. How about Eye of Ugin?
Eye of Ugin, powerful enough to be banned in Modern, yet somehow still legal in Legacy. That card is probably like my most hated Magic card of all time. And like, yes, that is coming from a very, very biased Miracles player. I'm not going to deny that. But ooh, and actually, I think Caleb just drew lethal here off the Cabal Therapy.
Wow. Yeah, I think we're going to our 5th and final match now, because he gets to Dark Ritual, Cabal Therapy, just take the Fairy Macabre. Actually, no, that's not. Oh yeah, because he's got the second Entomb, because he's gonna Fairy Macabre in response to this therapy to take out the Gristlebrand. He'll just Entomb, reanimate, and that's just gonna be the game, I think.
For sure, yeah.
I couldn't imagine that would be the case, because.
Yeah, so it looks like kind of like the past couple games where we're just waiting for it to end, but it's already over.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so here we see, the effects of metagaming. 12 posts, Julian definitely picked to absolutely stomp on any Miracles player or, any Miracles deck selection. But, the converse side is that he's paying a huge price, and Caleb is, exploiting that, and that is that 12 posts has a really, really weak combo matchup. Well, not really, really weak, but, it has a weaker combo matchup than other decks do.
Yep. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these Tinfin's decks moving forward had the Mentors and Bobs and things like that to compete with Miracles in the future. It looked like it was pretty good against the Miracles opponent, because especially if game 2, if they don't leave in their Swords of Plowshares, and you resolve one of those, I can't think of many draws that beat either one of those cards on their own from a Miracles side, especially if they're on 0 removal spells against you.
Yeah, and I mean that's the whole point of the transitional sideboard to begin with. You want to take advantage of how you think your opponent's going to sideboard. It also just conveniently works with the way your deck is designed initially. So I mean, going forward, Miracles players will probably have to understand that keeping copies of Terminus and Swords to Plowshares will be necessary because of the existence of this transitional sideboard.
Mm-hmm. It would have actually been really awesome. I can't imagine how awesome it would have been if Julian was able to draw a Caracas that turn when Caleb's at exactly 7 live, can't draw with Gristlebrand, only card in hand is a Chrome Mox, just draw a bounce that bounce your Gristlebrand, and then they're literally both just top decking again. But I mean, it looks like obviously he didn't do it, so this is pretty much gonna be a wrap on the match. And again, I guess he could bounce it again this turn, or no, I guess it is too late now, because even if he bounced it, then he could Thoughtseize himself and Shallow Grave and get another hit in, another 7 cards. But
yeah,
I guess he had his 1 or 2 chances, and like you said, his mulligan to 5 didn't have what it takes to compete with a full powered 7 from Tin Fins.
Right, absolutely. And I mean, a full powered 7 by Tin Fins doesn't even have to be that much in order to beat mulligan to 5 by the Cloud Coast opponent. I mean, that being said, like you mentioned, Julian's mulligan to 5 was still quite powerful. I mean, it had 2 pieces of interaction, which is pretty good for mulligan to 5.
Yeah. Now, if I'm not wrong, I think we know Julian's next coming deck is Elves. So I want to take a look at that deck and see what we're working with for this next match.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I would be absolutely surprised if Julian didn't have Elves. I mean, we do know that it is there, because I mean that's his deck. If you think about Elves, the first person that should ever come to your mind is this guy. Probably one of the most influential Elves players out there, alongside a couple others.
When you think of like Chris Anderson and Ross Miriam and the guys on the SCG tour that are doing really well with Elves too, in the past that have shaped the way the deck has been played.
Until recently, I think Reed Duke as well, switching back to Elves for a little bit. He may or may not have crushed me on camera in an SCG event recently. I don't want to talk about it. It may or may not have happened. But yeah, he's revisited the deck. He did go 12-3 at GP Columbus recently, which is a pretty solid finish.
Yeah, it looks like Caleb just wants to end the game this turn. He's going to end up casting the Emrakul once he goes off, and just not going to give Julian another chance to somehow top deck into this. But
yeah, the Entomb into instant speed Shallow Grave to get back the Emrakul that would normally shuffle back into the deck, but is instead being brought into play. And looks like we're going to a game 5, ladies and gentlemen. Caleb Durrell down 2 matches, brings it back to 2-2. I am excited.
I thought he was going to lose the match of Tin Fins against Miracles too. I think he lost game 1. Was it? Did he lose game 1? I can't remember if it was game 1 or game 2.
He did win game 1. Game 2, he lost to the Containment Priest.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. Game 2, he lost to Containment Priest pretty handily. And then game 3 was that crazy blowout game where they were both just healing on one another. And when he played the second Snapcaster with the Plow, I thought that was it. Especially because how many good draws does he have left in his deck? Like, I think Julian had a Flusterstorm in his hand too, so like he couldn't really get a combo off because he was so light on mana. He only had 1 Mentor left in his deck that he drew, because I mean he drew and played all 3. I think 1 got forced, 1 got plowed, and then the last one survived, and then finally won the game.
Yeah, I think it was like a Confidant and 2 Mentors, but still, like, that is by itself incredible, like.
I think it was 3 Mentors, because he played 1, it got forced. He played a Bob, it got plowed. He snap plowed the other Mentor, and then it was like another Mentor.
I think the Thoughtseize got forced, but either way, yeah.
Who knows? I mean, doesn't matter. Like, that's just so insane.
Like having that, like, and like obviously you can boil it down to words that make it not seem incredible, but like the sheer like excitement, like, because Caleb was down 2-0, and like obviously like a 3-0 sweep would be really cool, but we want to see more magic, and like that was just great. Like that's why Legacy is awesome, But yeah, we are going to be going into game 5. Julian will probably be on the play, I believe. Is that correct? Is it like play draw based on whoever wins and loses the match?
I think we're just letting Magic Online decide it.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, so it looks I think coming into this final seeding there is no play draw. It's just a lucky dice roll. But I think the play in the draw is especially going to be important in the Elves matchup because they do have Deathrite Shaman. Like if a Deathrite Shaman goes unanswered, that might be enough to beat Tin Fins in the first game if they don't have a way to interact with it.
For sure. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like we mentioned earlier, the game could go. I mean, game 1 if Julian has an early Deathrite Shaman, he could be favored. Caleb does still have the tools to, probably go around, like bypass the Deathrite Shaman. Alternatively, if Caleb goes first, he has the option to set up a turn 2 kill, which Tinfins is really good at doing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and looking at the post board, Julian has a lot of tools to bring in the form of multiple copies of Surgical Extraction and lots and lots of discards. So I feel like game 2 and 3 are going to be really grindy, and I'm excited to see how they turn out.
Yep. To be fair, if they get kind of grindy, I assume that favors the elves a lot.
Right.